balancing truth, principles, and perspective. This is the Equalizer Podcast.
Equal. All must be the wealth of the galaxy, shared by the will of the collective.
It sounds noble, doesn't it? Fairness, equality, a world where no one goes without. But behind that serenity hides a question. How much freedom must we surrender to make everyone equal? Today on The Equalizer, we're weighing socialism, a system that promises equity but delivers control. Socialism is an economic and political system built on collective ownership. The factories, the farms, the banks all belong to the people, which almost always means the state. Private property becomes suspect, profit becomes immoral, and individuality gives way to the collective good. Where enlightened capitalism protects liberty through voluntary exchange, socialism subordinates liberty to equality and coerces people into fairness. From my perspective, the greater individual freedom is the moral high ground. Socialism isn't compassion, it's coercion with a halo. The roots lie in the 19th century. Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels saw industrial inequality and concluded that the rich could never share power voluntarily. Revolution, they said, was inevitable. Workers would seize the means of production from the capitalists. And in the 20th century, crisis after crisis made that prophecy look appealing. Wars, depressions, colonial exploitation, each became a spark. The promise was always the same. Give up control, and we'll give you equality. In Cuba, 1959, Fidel Castro's revolution overthrew a corrupt capitalist regime. By 1961, industries were nationalized, and the state owed 70% of the land. Today, 90% of the Cuban economy remains under government control. GDP per capita hovers around $9,000. For perspective, the U.S. GDP per capita is nearly $67,000. Shortages are constant. Dissent, illegal. Equality came at the price of liberty. Everyone's equal, but no one has anything. Venezuela, 1998. Hugo Chavez called this project Bolivian socialism. He renationalized oil, steel, and banking and promised to share the wealth. But when oil prices fell, the system collapsed. By 2018, inflation hit 1.7 million %. 1.7 million %. By 2025, 90% of Venezuelans lived in poverty. The people were equal, yes, equally impoverished. The Soviet Union, 1917. Born from World War I chaos, the USSR replaced monarchy with Marxist planning. The state owned everything: steel, agriculture, housing, even art. Stalin's 5-year plans increased output, but killed millions in famines like the Holodomor, which killed 5 million people. By its collapse in 1991, the average Soviet citizen lived poorer than those in small Western nations. The workers' paradise became a prison of equality. Every socialist experiment begins with moral outrage. Corruption, inequality, exploitation, real injustices. And then comes the savior. Just give us power and we'll fix it for you. Crises justify control. Control demands obedience. And soon, equality becomes enforced uniformity. As I've said before, progressives use the force of moral outrage to cloak their shift towards collectivism. Socialism perfects that art, using compassion as camouflage for coercion. John Adams warned our Constitution was made only for a moral and religious people. He meant that self-governance depends on virtue. Socialism assumes virtue can be replaced by management, that the state can make people moral by decree. But morality without choice isn't morality, it's obedience. And when obedience is mandatory, liberty dies first. Creativity dies next because there's no incentive to create, and prosperity follows soon after as hopelessness and lack of meaning sets in.
Equal. All must be the wealth of the galaxy, shared by the will of the collective.
That's the heart of the idea and the flaw in it. You can force equality of outcome, but you cannot force equality of spirit, because freedom, the freedom to fail, the freedom to try, the freedom to own your life, is the only soil where true compassion grows. Next time on The Equalizer, we'll put communism on the scale, the final stage of collectivism and the most dangerous illusion of all.